In this video, I'm going to be printing and painting off some NPCs and playable characters for a little game that I've been putting together. So let's get on with it. So a little while ago, I got sent over some miniatures by Velrock Art Miniatures, and I really liked them. And then they also sent me over a whole bunch of other miniatures as well. And I figured I'd get around to looking at those on a future day. And today is that day. Now, some of you may know I've been working on a miniatures game, which is a little bit random, but it originally came about because I said that I'd put together something that would work with 15mm scale miniatures. And now I've done something that will work with hopefully both 15mm and 28 and 32mm scale. I'll come on to the game a little bit later, but first up, let's talk about these miniatures. I basically went through the entire library that Velrock Art Miniatures had sent me over, and there was a whole host of different things there to choose from. Now, I needed something that was going to fit in like a modern day apocalyptic style theme, and there was a whole load of different things to choose from. I especially like this cowboy with a whip and a shield on his back, because why not? He just fits so well with a character that I'd already come up with for one of my players, so I figured I would go with him. There's some others that I printed off as well that I really like the look of. So you've got these, I guess, standard military police type ones. We've got this engineer here as well. And the whole thing is that the characters that are part of this game that I've been putting together aren't just all soldiers or all skilled at fighting and stuff. They could be anybody. Basically, the game revolves around players picking from a whole deck of different characters that they could end up being. And that could be from anyone from like a politician or even a child through to, I don't know, your seasoned veteran soldier. So first up, I got them all downloaded, then threw them onto my printer. Oh, I just lost hearing. Oh my god, and this one as well. I got them all printed, cleaned up, and then cured, and then it was over to get them all primed up. Now with these ones, I wanted to do something that was fast, efficient, and make them show up on the games table. So I hit them all with just pure white all over, and then I took them over and used a lot of speed paints and contrast paints. Now normally I go for a Zenithal Prime, which is just black all over, then white from above, but a lot of the time with things like contrast paints or speed paints, you can start to really lose some of that, I don't know, vibrancy of the colours. And I wanted these to be quite vibrant, even though they're in like a post-apocalyptic setting. So with them being all white, you really take advantage of things like speed paints and contrast paints. You get a lot of that pigment, you get a lot of that colour, it really shows up. And then if you throw a wash over them later on, which I tend to do now, you get a lot of that shadow back. So now they were all white and primed up, I headed over to the painting table and started throwing on some colours. Now, like I said, I wanted these to be bright and vibrant. They're not just all military, they're not all going to be uniform, so I just had a little bit of fun with that. This one here turned out to be like April O'Neil from Turtles. She's got bright orange hair, she's got a yellow vest. Not entirely sure how that ended up happening, but there you go. And then my cowboy had a purple hat and this beautiful yellow duster coat. I wasn't intending him to have a yellow duster coat, but there he is, that's what he ended up with. So throughout the process, I just grabbed different random speed paints that I had available to me, threw them onto the models, and then moved across to the next stage. Basically, once I've done that now, I just go back in with a cream dry brush, hit all the models all over, and then once my dry brushing is done, I head on over and hit them all with some Nuln Oil. I pretty much leave them all at that stage now just because it's quick, it's easy, and it's efficient, and because there's going to be lots of characters in the game going forward, I figured it'd be nice to have something that's just easy to do and replicate for different players. So that's the miniatures done for this, and they're going to take part in the game as I do some playtesting and other bits there, but just a little bit more information about the game that I've put together. It's called Realm Break, and the idea is that all of these different portals and realms have opened up all over the world all at the same time, and they've opened up into different dimensions, so anything could come through those realm breaks. It could be demons, it could be space creatures, it could be other humans, it could be something from fantasy past and everything else. And the great thing is it just gives me a lot of flexibility in terms of storytelling, and it allows it to be really model agnostic, because if you want to play with fantasy miniatures, you could do that. And that way you don't have to be locked to any specific kind of miniatures, which is always a bonus. Realm Break is meant to be a sci-fi RPG type adventure, and how it works is players are thrown into an apocalyptic city and they're given an objective, and that can be from any of the range of stories that I've been writing for them. You're given different types of objectives, and ideally you have somebody called the Realm Master who oversees the whole thing and makes sure it runs smoothly. So first up is the player phase, and at this stage players get to take two actions. So they can either choose to move, they could explore, they could choose to make an attack, and then once that's done, we move on to the enemy phase, where any enemies on the board make their actions as well, and they get to make the same two actions as the players do. But once we've resolved the enemy stage, we move on to probably the most exciting part of this game, which is called the Realm stage. And basically the Realm Master has all of these things that could possibly happen. So if they're out and about and they're exploring in the city, for example, there's a whole host of different events or enemies that might spawn. If they're in different types of building as well, there's a whole list of different events and enemies that might spawn in there as well. And sometimes nothing will happen at all. Basically, you roll some dice and it'll give you a number. The Realm Master then finds the number on the corresponding chart and that will tell you what's going to happen. So maybe some enemies will spawn, maybe something like an earthquake will happen, maybe fireballs will start raining from the sky. There's all sorts of different things that could happen. So far in my playtesting, it's been a lot of fun because it's really random, and even though you've got an overall story that you're going to be doing and an objective, anything could happen while you're out and about. So every time you play through this with your friends, it's going to be very different. Now, it is in the early stages as well, so there's a lot of things to kind of build out there. When it comes to the different enemies and items, I've created a whole host of different item cards and different enemy cards, and the enemies all have different difficulty ratings. So depending on how hard you want to make it for your players, you can take all different types of enemies of different ratings, shuffle them into the deck, and then pop them on the pile. As your players are playing through this, and if you get some enemies that you need to spawn, sometimes it'll be like you need to draw 8 enemies. You just draw them from the top of the deck, and they're the enemies that you then need to spawn. It's got all the stats that you need on there for them, all health and everything like that, and hopefully you'd be able to find some miniatures to go with them. If your players are finding it a little bit too difficult, for example, you can go in there and remove some of the high difficulty enemies, or you can add some more in. And as we go into different areas, I'm going to make different enemies available. It's like different decks that you can download and play with. And that way, if they're going into a different area with different types of enemies, you can shuffle those in. We could have the whole host of them in there. It's the same with items as well, so that way you'll be told what type of item cards you need to shuffle into the different decks. So that way, for example, if your players go to a military camp, they're going to find more weapons and ammunition. But if they don't, and they're just exploring the general city, they'll find less of that sort of stuff, but more supplies that will help them out at their base camp, which is something I'm trying to figure out at the moment. So that, in a nutshell, is Realm Break, and I'm really excited for it. And I know every creator and their dog is making a game at the moment, but after I made the 15mm video, a load of people said that they liked some of the ideas that I came up with in that, and they'd like to have something like it. So this game has been made originally for 15mm scale, but it works with both of those. And the idea is, like I said, that you can take your players on this open world sci-fi RPG adventure, and it's going to be really, really random. So stay tuned for more about that. Everything's going to go up on my website at some point in the near future. It's all going to be free of charge, and the idea is that hopefully I'll be able to create some miniatures around it. So if we've got any budding creators out there who are really, really good at sculpting miniatures, I'd love to hear from you because I want to create some incredible stuff. Just want to say one thing, that all of the art at the moment that I have been using is AI generated. And the idea is that as I get into the final stages, I can take all of that stuff that's been generated by AI and give it over to somebody who's human and far better at art than I am, and they can come up with all the graphics and stuff like that. So stay tuned for more information in the future. Like I said, everything will be going up on my website. We'll be talking about it in my Discord channel as well. And yeah, hope you enjoy it as much as I have. I also want to say a massive thanks to Velrock Art Miniatures, because these things are great and they fit so well with some of the characters I've already come up with. So stay safe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye!